So our next speaker is Pastor Akeem Onyekachi Ikwunze. And the pastor is from South Africa. He's a theologian, businessman, and director at Rock Glen, Zimbabwe Limited, and CEO of Domainso Investment Group, South Africa. He is an electrical engineer with a postgraduate in entrepreneurship. His topic is marriage, a critical aspect for family relationships in our world. Pastor?
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for the platform. It's been so informative and educative for all of us, and I'm so glad to be part of this work. I'll speak on marriage, a critical aspect of family relations in our world. The consciousness of nature around us and who we are plays a great role in understanding the subject of our discussion and solving the challenges of quality that pertains to the present or the recent times through synthesis in society, science, and culture. Society, science, and culture cannot be dealt with in isolation. I will narrow down my discussion on culture, but before I do, I would like to shed light on a fundamental part of nature and creation. It goes back to the beginning of time. We believe in a force, a source, an originator who created everything and pre-existed creation. He made science and arranged our society in an organized order. Hence, the totality of a person's way of life in relation to his environment and elements that surround him are his reality. I would like to point to the application of science as the most important tool in the whole of life itself. What is said of the use of word for mankind is what separates them from animals. Also, you cannot separate a man from his word. A man's word is his bond and his identity. Without the privilege of seeing my image, you can only imagine my personality or identity with regards to my voice, which you can hear or perceive. It is agreed in most spiritual systems that the supreme being who created all that is used words to create and recreate, thereby producing animate and inanimate objects. An understanding that the concept of the word spoken, call it what you may, brought forth light over darkness. The elements that were created were already in existence. Hence, we make reference to Einstein's theory of relativity, where he says energy is equal to mass times speed of light squared, where energy, mass are equivalent and transmutable, 020202. Energy E, mass, that's M, matter, hence substance, and then C is constant, which is speed of light squared, which is 010101. What does that tell you? That energy is matter. Therefore, if energy is matter, it means your speech is matter. Hence, the smallest component of any element may not be an atom. It's likely to be a sound mass, meaning in every particle, there is a sound wave that can contain a sound code. If it contains a sound code because it contains a sound wave, it means it will respond to a sound wave. This helps us to see the relationship between physical things and spiritual things. I mean, those that study quantum physics will relate to this. You can understand why we will call things from the spiritual realm into the physical. Our words are powerful. They are a bridge between the physical and spiritual. They are both physical and, interestingly, they are spiritual. Think about this. It is true that speech creates sound wave and therefore has energy. For instance, when we tune the volume of your radio so much that it produces vibration when it's on bars or high pitched, it indicates the presence of sound wave. Then it is true that sound wave has energy. They come from speech. It is the power of speech. This is why high intensity ultrasound focusing is used to destroy cancer cells. It means that words can destroy cancer cells depending on their intensity. Therefore, the words we speak can create or destroy. This means that it is dangerous to speak negative words because you are instructing subatomic particles on what you are involved in. It is just like Mr. Masaru Emoto, a Japanese pseudoscientist, who became world famous because of his pioneering and original research on the effect of words or emotions on molecular structure of ordinary water. He claimed that expressions of positive or negative emotions affect water and then observed these through frozen crystals of water. Solving the problem, this is the reason we have to go back to a fundamental base to correct the omission of the spiritual part of education, which was systematically removed from the inception of modern education. The modern right-thinking person has no doubt about the worth of education, which connects humans to the achievements of civilization and prepares them for the independent creative activity in their chosen field of endeavor. Both the family and the university play a vital and pivotal role in education because the educational process emerges from the family and the teaching process from the higher educational institution. Education, which is now primarily a part of state's policy, controls and determines its budget with significant costs in many countries. In the age-old system, the education and teaching were conducted mainly in the family. In the passing era from communal to slave system, the old traditions of family education were kept and then changed. The function of work of a teacher, or even the art of the science of teaching itself, were prerogative of patriarchal family, which were fixed in the literary monuments of ancient East. The schools and educational system of ancient East were developed in line with specific historical, cultural, moral, and ideological values. The human was formed within the rigid social regulators, responsibilities, and personal dependence on others. The idea of individuality by humans was very poorly considered. The personality dissolved in the family, caste, and social stratum. Hence, the reliance on strict forms and methods of education was present. The focus in teaching and education on the most ancient Eastern civilization was on the family, religious institutions, and states. The reason for this is that the family was not able to provide a community with a sufficient number of people with experience in reading, writing, and studying law. That was why the educational institutions created by a secular government and the religious began to teach the populace in order to supplement the officials. The transition period, when the first human civilization arose, is characterized by deep change in the practice of education and teaching. The ways of transmission of the cultural heritage of ancestors from adults to children changed qualitatively. There were special educational frameworks for teaching the younger generation. Moral education in ancient Egypt and Africa was conducted mainly through memorization and meditation of moralizing concepts, like in Igbo language, we say gidi gidi bu ugweze, meaning the pride of a king is in the support of his kinsmen. Ajuwa ajuja ala, ajo ewi. It means if you seek wisdom, consult with the elders. Reading, writing, and storing such instructions was not easy, as they are expressed in the language of hieroglyphics that are different from living speech. The spirituality of concepts was key, where they dwelt in that high level of engagement through prayer and meditation. The purpose and objective of education then was to prepare for activities that family members were traditionally engaged in. So the family was the basic unit of teaching. Musicians, artisans, priests, and so on passed their professions or trade onto their children. Fathers, craftsmen sometimes used props and crafted toys in teaching their children models of agricultural implements, mills, forges, and so on. The Military Act was transferred strictly to specific classes. The families and the communities of future soldiers were taught to use weapons, special exercises to develop strength, endurance, agility. So a family system with full involvement in education is vital to integrating our world. This now is where marriage is important, and the marrying out of a bride. In Africa, when it's married, there's celebration, elating, joy. Now, marriage brings integration of cultures and belief systems together, where we learn from one another, unite families, live together in harmony, and incorporate ideologies to develop into a peaceful world. This is a holy ground with sanctity. It means that you do not come into the marriage union with an intention to leave. Marriage is a safe ground for building a family relationship, which educates, sculptures, and forms a framework that molds our society. In today's world, we cannot successfully integrate our society, science, and culture without the foundation of this union, known as the institution of marriage. Another organized family system will produce a world of peace, joy, harmony, and inclusiveness. Science, society, and culture have now been introduced, as seen above. Man, in the realm of something more sublime than animal. He speaks, therefore, according to my previous explanation, the bridge between physical and the spiritual is accomplished. Man has been able to conquer his world as expected, but the divergence in his view and tolerance to integrate these key components is focus of our discussion. It has been a huge challenge in our world today. If you've noticed, whatever we have in the world today is said to be discovered or invented because it had always been in existence. Thomas Edison, who invented the incandescent light bulb, the phonograph, and much more, was held back from a formal school as a child. He was educated and trained by his mother at home. This family system is very important and hence leads us into our discussion of marriage. I'll look at the purpose of marriage and the role of society. The purpose and reason for marriage. We see two very important principles. Number one, marriage was instituted by a higher power or model and not man. Man was given the opportunity to make his choice in another human being. The second point is that the purpose of marriage is for you to be joined with one of the opposite gender who would help you fulfill your calling and the responsibilities in your life. Marriage is primarily to help you serve better and live a life worthy of connectiveness in honor and dignity. The secondary reason for marriage includes having goodly seed, children. A goodly family is the smallest unit of your natal family. The second point is companionship. Companionship, in this instance, should not connote having someone physically by your side all the time, but someone of like mind who is working with you towards common goals, regardless of where he or she is physically located at any point in time. In ancient days, a big family was an advantage for industrialization and productivity because they were the workforce. There existed strong bonds and connections. The third point is abstaining from fornication. Marriage provides the avenue where legitimate sexual desires could be fulfilled effectively. Through these, though these are the most common stated reasons for marriage, there are secondary reasons and should not overshadow the primary purpose of marriage. Marriage is determined primarily by how involved in spiritual things that the parties are than by how old chronologically they are. So someone who is not yet accountable for specific responsibilities in the house is not yet ready for marriage. Spiritual responsibility starts from the lower level. The first prerequisite is that you must be a responsible and consistent member of your family. If you cannot pass the faithfulness test at this level, you will never get bigger responsibilities. The second point, the role of the family. The family expects to be involved in relationship before they are even contracted or they are amongst the first to be informed. For the man or for the young man that is getting married, you should have received appropriate counsel from before proposing. And for the lady, you should also have received appropriate counsel before accepting. Why some marriages fail? That's our third point. As shocking as this may sound, it is not automatic for marriage between, as shocking as this may be, it is not automatic for marriage between good and nice people to work out. Just the same way as it is not automatic for every good person to be prosperous or healthy, etc. Though the provision has been made, so also it is with marriage. The number one cause of distress in home is ignorance. Ignorance of the responsibility of each member in that household. Marriage seminars can help couples, but are not the only solution. The need for the couples to find in their deep spiritual roots answers to connection is paramount. This is why a marriage in which one or both parties do not have time to engage spiritually will end up with problems. Another related reason for the rise in divorce rate is that couples try to build their marriage solely on the love they feel for each other. They assume that such love transcends all problems, so they do not bother to involve concepts of higher spiritual worth with their marriage decisions. Lastly, what about simple disagreement? We all need to work at compromise. We need to listen to the words and perceptives of the other spouse, rising above our personal egoism and allow him or her what comes from their own perspective and nature. This kind of respect for the other can lead to compromise, love, and accomplishments, regardless of divergence in the obvious, uncorrected perceptions and properties in each partner. No one person is 100% right or wrong. We can develop a respect for another's point of view, even if we feel a weakness in their perspective. After we have listened to their side, we can acknowledge it and add our personal thoughts and determine together a middle line that both can accommodate. In conclusion, solving the problem, our global problem of modernity through integration in society, science, and culture needs the application of integral wisdom and education with familiar roots in order to realize that we have to unite together in a mutual relationship of one love, irrespective of disposition, color, race, or geographical location. Thank you so much. Any question?
I may ask you a question, but you're a pastor, so I hope you will stick to the time. What about polygamy? This is an area. What do you think about it? Like in your culture, what is polygamy, and your religion? Is it accepted there? And if so, how do you practice it?
All right. Thank you so much for the question. If I will narrow it to, if I narrow it to the Christian beliefs, the Christian believes in one man, one woman, they believe in monogamy. But in a situation, because you see, in a situation where someone is not a Christian, or was not one, because I'm telling you, the practices, but in a situation where one wasn't one, he comes into the fold and he is polygamous. Of course, you cannot throw away your family. Your family system is your family. Like the lecture I was given now, in the in the olden days, a family is seen. In fact, a very productive family is the one that is big and is polygamous. In the I don't want to go too much in religion, but in the Christian in Christianity, is one man, one woman. But in the Old Testament, you can relate to that. Abraham, which Christians are the descendants of Abraham through Christ. He had a polygamous family, and it was actually an advantage at the time. In a polygamous family, you have that workforce, like I mentioned. When you look at the family system, everybody is productive, everybody is trained and taught, and there's unity, there is harmony, in that family. I happen to come up from a polygamous family, a very big family, until my Christian beliefs. But if I narrow it to my belief in Christianity, is one man, one woman. I hope I answered your questions. Thank you.
Thank you
Any
so
other
much.
questions?
Thank you so much, Pastor.